Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syrian Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's special live streaming with our friend Rita Koefoed. For those who don't know, guys, I have known Rita for over probably 10 years. We started communicating on Facebook, and she's been also active on social media when the war started. But this is the first time we do a live conversation together, and we actually meet this virtually on webcam and hopefully also soon face to face. What I'm trying to do here, guys, on Syrian Analysis is to bring Syrians from different communities, from different walks of life, from different religions and sects and ethnicities. It doesn't matter for me. I want to create a bridge between different Syrians in order for us to be prepared for the stage after Jolani, because I believe the Jolani regime will crumble sooner or later. We don't know when, but when that happens, we need to have a class of Syrians that are ready to talk and debate in a civilized manner, whether we agree or disagree among each other. So thank you so much, Rita, first of all, for coming to Syrian Analysis. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, whether on YouTube or on Rumble. And also thank you for our moderators, Johan, and also the Red Access. Rita, how are you doing today, first of all?
I'm fine. I'm fine. We've been a little bit late, but that's okay.
I was late. I was late today. And the problem is, for the first time, this software, StreamYard, started lagging. And he says, like, you have to restart your laptop. And I have done that over 10 times and it never worked. But now it works. Finally, we are live. And I believe this would be very, very interesting because your name was nominated also on X. Some people said, have to have you. There are different topics that we're going to discuss today, but mostly we're going to focus on one specific topic. But Rita, before we start everything, for those who don't know you, could you please walk us through your life journey? Like, where were you born and raised, your family background, education, and career? That would be amazing.
That's, first of all, thank you for having me today. And in fact, we've been, I think, more than 14 years now, Kevork. We've been friends on Facebook. And like, I know you a long time ago, but this is the first time we talk face to face or like by camera. So my name is Rita Koefoed Khairbek, and I was born in the countryside of Hama, and I was raised in Latakia. I studied in Latakia University. I studied English literature, and then I did a master's degree in comparative literature. So, and I worked a little bit also in Latakia city, a little bit in Damascus. So I have lived until I was 26 years old in Syria. So I have witnessed the war, you can say that. So I made a decision to move to Norway, and then in Norway I have changed my career, in fact. So in Norway I have studied biology, psychology, and I hold a master in behavioural neuroscience and another master in clinical psychology.
Wow.
But my field of work and research it's a behavioural neuroscience. So for those who doesn't know what we do, we think that we connect the hormones and how the hormones work and to the brain and then to the behavior itself. So my field of specialties is stress hormones, circadian rhythm, memory, and sleep, and trauma, of course. So this is my field of specialty.
Not that you need my endorsement or any kind words from my side, but I feel proud of you and I feel proud of Syrians like yourself, because when I lived also in Syria, I was in touch with people like you, and there was this big hope, let's say in before 2011, that our country is probably on the right track and we will try to be this generation who can bring development to our country. And we're not talking about only scientific development, but also the societal development, that it was really time for us to move forward. Unfortunately, I think we moved probably 100 years back in history. Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth. And today we will speak about the, of course, Alawites and Nusayris, as some people like to call it. And in this case, I think it's very important to raise this issue because many people do not know who are the Alawites beyond cliches and propaganda. So, Rita, for listeners who only know Alawites as they call it also in the mainstream press, Assad's sect, or not at all, they don't even mention it. How would you describe who the Alawites are as community in terms of history, geography, and everyday life?
It's very funny because people here, at least in the West, think that Alawites are just like a football
Yeah.
game team and maybe 12 people, etc. Alawites, who are the Alawites? Alawite, they are the coastal people of the mountains. Basically, we are almost like 5 million people. We are in Syria, we are in Lebanon, we are in Turkey, in Hatay, or we call it Skanderun. So we are a diverse society. In fact, we are doctors, we are engineers, we're lawyers, actors. We are we are atheists, non-atheists. We're just a society like any other society. But the thing is that who are the Alawites is it has a historical meaning. It's like we were never been here yesterday. We always have been in Syria. We always have been a component part of Syria. Like religiously speaking, Alawites they have their own separate religion and how they think about life, how they think about humans, how they think about everything. So, for example, Alawite believes that the soul will reincarnate again and again to purify itself and become light. So there's no hell and heaven. Alawites. Also, they believe in this, the wine and the bread. They also, it's a very like old kind of like Syrian religious or culture in the Alawite sect. People, of course, like call Alawites kind of branch of Islam and a branch of Shia Muslim. This is the cliche that you hear all the time, right? And this is people asking me about it. But I think I would like to describe it in this way. I describe that Islam is part of Alawism, not the other way around. So part of Islam is kind of like part of Alawism, but Alawism is the kind of like putting things together, Yes. So we are Christians in our way. So God manifests also in human body, like also Jesus and Isra. So we are kind of like the oldest Syrian religious group, and so if you want to put it like this, so we are not just Muslims. We're really very special ethno-religious group in this sense.
I want to share some of my personal experiences, and I was born and raised in Aleppo, and we had great relationship with all the communities. As an ethnic Armenian Christian, we never faced any prejudice or exclusion from anyone in the city. At least I'm talking about because I lived in the city. I worked with my father in industrial zone, and as everybody knows, the businesses and factories are in the hands of the Muslim Sunnis. Never faced any questions about my faith or anything, I had a happy life, let's say, in Aleppo. My father later started doing more business in Tartus. So we used to go and come back in Tartus. And this was my first, let's say, communication as a young Syrian with the Alawite community. And I found the Alawites were more, let's say, open-minded than other communities in Syria. This is a fact that I cannot just sugarcoat and say, no, it's a reality after matter, And the way I learned, like when we go, for example, to a restaurant and eat with an Alawite, it's different when you eat with a Sunni. So they are more conservative compared to, let's say, the Alawites. And also there were intermarriages among the Alawite community. For example, a person who is an Alawite can marry a Christian, and there was no brutal, let's say, conflict about this. So I felt more or less comfortable being around also Alawite people, and I, of course, at no point received a threat from an Alawite for being a Christian and Armenian. We also shared historically similar oppressors. Let's talk about a little bit Ottoman Empire and how also the Alawites were massacred by the Alawites. And probably some people say that was the reason why the Alawites went into the mountains, because it was more difficult for the Ottoman armies to go on the top hill of the mountains to kill them. So that's why they say they are the people of the mountains in this case. But if, Rita, you had to correct just one or few misconceptions the people watching us, those in the US or in Europe, usually have about Alawites, what would that be? A lot of people do not know who are the Alawites.
I mean, like, first of all, we are not the Assad people. We're not the Assad sect, because Assad has no sect. We are way more older than any modern state. We are way older than Islam, Christianity. We are Syrians. We have been in this land like thousands of years. And I also want to, this misconception about Alawites, that all of them are loyal to the regime. And I personally come from a family where they're persecuted because of their political views. Like my dad was in jail because he was a communist, and my uncle was in jail because he was a communist. Also, 15 years my uncle was in jail. In fact, he is one of the most political opponents of the Hafez Assad regime. So this is also a misconception I'm facing when I'm doing interviews and academic interviews with researcher regarding Syria, and that they are already have decided to describe us as the regime sect, and everything is happening to us today. The massacres, the ongoing genocide, it's a political act, because we were allied with the regime. So I think there is two misconceptions I want just to clarify, and maybe the last one is Alawites are not Muslims in the traditional way of Islam, that you understand Islam either Sunni or Shia. Alawites are separate religion with a special tradition and special custom, and also kind of like a special dialect, you know yourself about it. So we have like a special dialect also. So I would describe it like that. I will want to clarify these misconceptions.
I think this is very important what you mentioned, that we are not Assad's sect, you said. And I believe, as a journalist, followed the mainstream press and the war on Syria, which I called it a war against Syria and against the Syrian people. There was a deliberate attempt to paint the Alawites and attach them to the Assad rule. And they always called, like when there is a missile falling in Latakia, they say Assad's stronghold has been hit by the rebels. When an Alawi is being slaughtered, they say he is from the sect of the president of the country. And then the president is ousted and he is now in Moscow. And when these people who are in charge now in Damascus, who they said in the first weeks of this so-called revolution in 2011 that we will slaughter the Alawites. And they started like that. And when they followed their promise and they slaughtered them, if you read the mainstream press, they always say the same thing. There are two things, actually. One, those were acts of revenge, which means that those people have committed something against the other people, that these people are committing revenge against them. This is a reaction and not an action. This is how they describe. And secondly, they always say that the Alawite community were affiliated to or with the former regime, and also falsely claim that they are part of a Shia community. Therefore, they are linked to Iran. So it is permissible for these people to commit atrocities against them. That's why I always say that the media played a destructive role against the Syrian communities, and this is a deliberate policy. It's not like a journalist decides to say something like this. This is an editorial policy, and this policy comes from the upper body of the media outlet. They're telling them what to say and how to cover up on these crimes. I think it's very shameful the way they describe the Alawite community, dehumanize them, demonize them in order to continue these atrocities against the Alawite community in Syria.
Yes, and this is not just like in journalism. You see it also. I see it as a researcher. I see it also when I conduct interviews or I make interviews for research, academic research. I just said they already have decided what to say, and they are apologizing to me. If you read this, I need to be scientific, or I need to be academic, or I need, which I understand, of course, as a researcher myself. But being a researcher and it means being honest also, and being to challenge the mainstream and challenge the narrative and trying to find something else. But regarding this kind of like this myth, I call it. I mean, like, you lived in Syria. I know this. You know that regime, the Assad regime, both Hafiz al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad, the loyal people were the Sunni and all other also minorities and components of the Syrian society, not just the Alawites. In fact, I mean, like the Sunni, the Shia, the Christians, everybody was part of this kind of regime, because it was like a dictatorship regime. It was the only Ba'ath party, at that time. So you need to be part of it. You need to be part of the state. You need to be part of something. So it's not just about the Alawites at this time.
Yes, that's very true. I think painting the former regime as a sectarian regime, one of the reasons why these atrocities still continue, and how they mobilized, unfortunately, thousands of brainless people and send them to the coastal cities in order to butcher the Syrian Alawites. I want to move with you, dear Rita, to Nusayri and the return of the old wound. We've seen the word Nusayri coming back in slogans. The first time I heard it was in 2011. In my entire life, I never knew what is Nusayri and what is Nasara and what is all this stuff. Somebody called me, you're a Nasrani. I was like, what is that? Could you please elaborate? I never heard of it. So you're the Nusayri and I'm the Nasrani.
Not the Nasrani, yes. We are two Nusayri and Nasrani together sitting here today.
We've seen this in slogans first, and then we heard it in fatwas and on social media platforms. Historically, what does this word mean, and why is its return so painful for the Alawites?
The word Nusayri coming from Muhammad ibn Nusayr. He is one of the greatest scholar in the Alawites religion. But the thing is, Nusayri as a word, it was written in many like holy texts, fatwas, like for example Ibn Taymiyyah, he has a fatwa about killing the Nusayri, raping the women, etc., etc., etc. So in the mainstream of extremists and their books and etc., there is the Nusayri you need to kill. There is a group of people who are labeled as Nusayri, and then you need to kill them. So when you hear this word again, and also in social media, or you see it on videos of extremists, of course, then you wake up, something coming back from the history, targeting you again just because who you are.
Yes.
So the word Nusayri, I would call it, maybe you are also, dear Kevork, you are Armenian yourself, and you can maybe feel the same as I feel if you were Armenian in Turkey, for example, of how your people been treated. So it's a wound. So it's I don't want to call it like a scary word, but when we hear it, we know it. We know there's someone coming to kill us, not because I am pro-Assad or against Assad, just because who I am. You understand? Yes. So it's based on fundamental, on extremist Islam. So for example, there is a lot of like Islamists coming from China. I mean, like, what they know about Syria's politics. I mean, like, of course, they're coming for jihad, And who is the first? It's the Nusayri, and then comes to Nasara, first us,
Indeed.
and then comes to Nasara, and comes other components, So it's a wound. It's a really so I would like when we hear it, so our nervous system start. I want to talk like maybe a little bit as a scientist, but when I hear it, so our nervous system start to like activate this kind of an old trauma, and memories that we hear, and the stories of our grandparents, our grandmothers about how they were killed, executed, escaped in the mountains, etc.
Yes. In this case, up until this moment, I mean, when I first heard about this Nasara or Nusayri and all these things, I was in Lebanon sitting with someone who described himself as a neo-Salafist, whatever that means. And Shisha and another guy came. They all look like they're dressing like us, and they say they are neo-Salafists, so they dress like us, but they believe in Salafism. And bro was talking about Osama bin Laden as being one of the greatest mujahideen in the world. So I already felt there is something off when they started describing me that way. But we are 2025. I mean, it's going to be 2026 in 2-3 weeks. And people come on social media to slander me by calling me an Armenian, like the same way they call you a Nusayri. Like they would like to come to me and call me an Armenian as a slur. And I don't understand what have we done except for literally bringing our culture, values. We brought with us music, we brought with us our songs, we brought with us art, culture. We established schools, universities. We presented and we added into this beautiful mosaic of what used to be called Syrian Arab Republic. So flipping people's minds all of a sudden, I think it was not a sudden thing. Like I always say, people's minds were suddenly flipped. But those were the same people I had breakfast with in the university. And I cannot believe that it happened in one day. Like, were they hiding this prejudice against me? Were they like so good in acting? Because we were like friends all the time. We were having Ramadan breakfast together, like fasting together, not like I was fasting the entire time, but when we were invited, we were happy to go in these occasions. That's why I feel pain in my chest sometimes discussing about these things, because very few people whom I knew from the days of the university continued respecting me or not wishing me harm because of my simple identity. Like I was born into this identity. I didn't even choose or pick to be an Armenian. Not that it's something bad. In the contrary, you have to be proud. If you're an Armenian, we survived the genocide, 1.5 million people. Why would I be ashamed if somebody is calling me an Armenian? It's just beyond me, really.
Yeah, you mentioned something very interesting about calling you Armenian, and this is we see it all the time. I'm not going to mention my Turkish friends what they say. It's shameless, but back to the Nusayri word. The Nusayri means non-believer, heretics, infidels. All this, because they are different, right? So you are different. So everything is different is a threat. Is a threat. This is what they think, but you said it's not a shift of mind. It's always been there. It's always been there, but it didn't have the time to grow. Not the right environment. If I'm growing bacteria, I need the right environment, right temperature, etc. Right? So it didn't have the right time, the right environment for those things to go up into the surface. So now it's the right time that everybody can just let their anger, aggression, hate to grow, because it's nobody's looking and nobody's is caring, and the atmosphere, it's like this, and if you didn't also, like, I don't want to go too much into psychology and to neuroscience, how we learn from each other, or people, how they learn even online, but it's like this kind of a behavior and thinking, it's normalized now. It's
Yes.
really normalized. It's normalized to someone coming to my Facebook account and threaten to kill me and saying, you are Nusayri, I'm going to kill you. It's like, I'm a less than a pig, you know?
And the scariest part is that there are many of these type of people in Europe.
Yeah, yes, they are. But thank God that here in Europe, like there's kind of like law, and they are maybe afraid of law a little bit. But in Syria, there's nothing. People are
Mm,
left for nothing. Nobody is protecting them. So that's why I'm here today, also to
yeah.
speak up a little bit. Yeah.
Some of you guys say that my voice has a problem. Yeah, I know. As you can see, I'm talking like a robot to you, and I don't know what happened. Everybody around me are ill. I'm not. I don't feel ill. Like everybody's flu, grippe, or whatever. I don't feel that way. It's just my voice has gone. I think I have to rest tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I cannot do live streaming tomorrow, guys. Please, I apologize from you, but it's just difficult sometimes to speak now.
Mm.
Rita, melting into the state and becoming orphans of citizenship. So after Syria's independence from the French, many Syrian Alawites chose to melt into this newly formed Syrian national state,
Mhm.
the Syrian National Army, and later the Baas Party under the promise of being citizens first. How did that strategy protect them for a while? And how did it later leave them politically and legally orphaned?
I mean, like, this is very nice when we talk about the orphan of the state. This is the theory I came up with. In fact, I called it like orphans of the republic.
Yes.
Like, because at that time it was a republic, and everybody emerged in this republic, not just the Alawites. Of course, you know that, Kevork. The Christians, the Sunni, but Alawites are the minority or the Syrian components who found emerging into the state kind of like a strategic survivor, in fact,
Mhm.
because Alawites before that, they were like kicked out in the mountains. They were like just farmers, peasants, very poor, in fact.
Yeah.
So it was a way for survivors. So Alawites. So this is before Hafiz Assad, way before Hafiz Assad. We're talking
Mhm.
before Hafiz Assad. So we're talking about the 40s, the 50s. So Alawites have melted into the state and become the citizen of the state.
Mhm.
And they have also developed kind of like habits of being a citizen. So they talk this like the state, they think like the state, they feel like the state. They have forgotten they are Alawites in the first place, you know. And you, of course, you know what I'm talking about. So if you say that you are Alawites, people would think that you are backward, you know, or
Yeah.
you are Christian, I'm Christian. People would think that you are backward or whatsoever. You're not civilized, right? But for us, okay, maybe for that time in the Republic time was a good idea. Was a survivor technique, but I think we have lost a lot. We
Mhm.
have lost kind of like a like independent institution, independent tongue, independent thinking. Think as an Alawite first. This is
Mhm.
not meaning we hate Syria or don't want to be part of Syria. No, no, no. On the contrary, on the
Yeah.
contrary. But I mean, like, so when the state fall, when Bashar al-Assad left us, so now we are left. We don't know if we are the citizen of the state because the state doesn't recognize us. You know, we are
Yes.
Falun, and people are shouting in the street to kill us. You know that you have seen demonstration lately in Latakia and Helms and Hama,
Yes.
and so there's no state to protect you. Okay,
No.
even there is no state, there is no organized group or community to protect you as an Alawite. So I
Yes.
think it was good at that time to melt in the state, to have this opportunity to get education like any other Syrians, in fact, like any other countryside Syrians at that time, you know that, to go and get education, to be bureaucrats, but this melting in the state, it had melted our identity, you know.
Yes.
So here I always use Hannah Arendt in this, like the right to have rights, you know. Maybe we would come to this later on.
Yes.
Yes. Mm.
But it is a question many people ask. Was it correct for the Alawites to melt into the state from the beginning? Because um, I mean, this is a question that I don't have the answer for it, but Hafiz al-Assad came to power, and of course, some of the Alawites benefited from it, but not only them, but this was attached that this is an Alawi, let's say, regime. But the most important thing was because in the coastal cities, there was no, let's say, economic revolution there, and Hafiz and Bashar didn't bring steady economic development there, mostly based on services and agriculture. So many people started going to university, for example. So they became teachers, university professors, etc. So they went into teaching and educating. They're from Latakia and teaching people in Deir Zor, in Qamishli, in Hasake, for example, not in their governorates. Secondly, men, because we like status, we like power, so we go into the military or we go to the mukhabarat or the security services, right? So probably I'm saying there was some over representation of the Alawites in some of these sectors because of this economic condition, and not because there was a policy of encouraging them to join this sector, but because this was what was available for them.
Yes, of course. If you not just in Syria, if you look across communities and culture, I mean, like, who goes to the army? Who joined the army? The poor people, right? The people are in need. And that's the case for Alawites. I mean, okay, at that time, I understand, and it was a time of like communism, the idea of one nation, etc. You know how was that time in the 60s and 70s and etc. I understand. It was good for Alawites to join the state in this way. It was perfect, I think, but we needed something else. We needed, when people have melted into the state in this way, we needed our independent organizations, institution. We needed an archive for documenting all the atrocities and genocide that happened to us. Like there's many genocide happened to Alawites during history. Nobody knows anything about it because it's not documented, it's not studied, Like what happened in Aleppo for Alawites? What happened on the mountains for Alawites? How the Ottoman Empire for 400 years have just treated the Alawites less than pigs.
Yes.
So we didn't have this kind of an independent institution that will protect us when the moment of zero would come, which is came, and we see it and we live in it every day. So the state had a kind of like a contract, okay? So be a good citizen. We give you kind of like a citizenship. You can be lawyer. But you have to forget that you are Alawite. You have to sacrifice this thing. And I think this is not the mistake I would do that we have done it, but I think it was the deep wish to be part of the republic, to be this good citizen in this way. But I think we have lost, but we have lost the history, but we didn't have to lose the future. So we're gonna build it again.
Guys, this is what she's describing is accurate to a broader extent. I will give you one example. In 2013, guys, when this Nusra, the same Jolani people, backed by the Uzbekis, Tajikis, Uyghurs, and Chechens, when they attacked northern Latakia, they committed genocide, because the genocide is the destruction of the people in part or in whole based on their ethnic or religious identity. They went from one stone house into another, and they killed people based on their religious identity. They have done that in 2013. And the former regime, when they reported about it, of course, they said there were massacres happening, etc., but they didn't mention once that they were targeted because of their religious identity. They didn't say those were targeted particularly because they're Alawites. In their mind, they said, we don't want to bring any sectarian sensitivities into the discussion of the Syrian politics. But you also, by doing so, you are depriving the people of the right of their own identity, because they're getting killed being an Alawite, basically, by somebody came from Xinjiang, and he thinks that these people are the kuffars. So he's killing them based on their identity. I think the media policy of the former regime was not also completely accurate. They could have done better, especially when it comes to our identities. You can be a Syrian. I always identified myself as a Syrian Armenian. There is no contradiction between these two. But it was somehow taboo for the Syrian state TV to report about these cases as sectarian incidences, because probably they didn't want to exaggerate or exasperate these sectarian tensions in the country. But in any ways, it blew up into the faces of everyone. And speaking of genocide as a process, not just massacre, and I think this is very important that we're discussing today. You have described genocide not as one shocking event, but as a long process. If we look at what happened on and around March 7 of 2025, can you walk us through the stages, like from language, dehumanization, killing, fake courts recently, that to rewrite what happened this year with the Syrian
Yeah, I
Alawite?
think, dear Kevork, you are the first person to understand that genocide is not one incident. It's a process. I mean, like, until today, you have people denying the Armenian genocide, denying it. You have 1.5 million people and trying to rewrite your history. So I would go into this. I describe it. I always say it's a process. It starts with language. It always starts with an idea, labeling people as pigs, as the enemy, as so immediately when you start repeating these words, so your brain works like, okay, they are less than us. They are less than us. So your amygdala start to weaken sympathy in it, you know. So this is why fMRI studies we see it, okay, as a scientist. So it's a start from the language, and after the language, when you it's come the ideas, you know, the idea that that person is a pig, we have to kill him. Oh, these Alawites are like this and like that. So what has happened in the 7th of March? It didn't start on the 7th of March. It has started long time ago, of like a long history of persecution. And the 14 years of civil war in Syria, I would like to call it civil war in Syria, we have seen a lot of civilians being killed just because they were Alawites or Christians or Ismaili or Druze or etc. Okay, but with the regime, here I call it like you are the orphan of the state. Immediately, they have kicked out thousands of Alawite bureaucrats or like civil employee, and this is, you know, and everybody knows, as a kind of a reform. Think about that. You have doctors, engineers, nurses, teachers, lawyers being kicked out of their jobs just because they are Alawites, not for any other reason. Okay, after that, this is a part of genocide. After that was a lot of displacement, okay? Displacement from Al-Ghab plain, from Homs, people were displaced. This is a process. This is what stage. Then come the demonstrations in Homs, in Latakia city. In Latakia, think about it. Neighbors went out in the street shouting, killing Alawites, or they want to kill all the Alawites, or etc., etc. So it was, and then has resulted on the 6th of March in calling jihad upon Alawites. Yeah. This is very important. This is, we have to be very honest. There's in videos also, like, this is not me. They were them who were bragging about it. So it was videos calling for jihad against Alawites, and from many cities, things from Aleppo, from Damascus, from Idlib, from Homs, from Daraa, calling for jihad. And after that, what happened when you call for a jihad? Of course, people would go and kill that pig that already in your brain is labeled as less than you, okay? And you go and kill it, okay? Yes. So this is what has happened on the 7th of March, and door-to-door killing. I am in the group of like documentation. In 2 days, there's 5,000 people were killed door to door, just because they were Alawites, no other reason. And they themselves, the people who killed, who done that, they are proud of it. But the genocide doesn't stop here. You know, after a genocide, there's a genocide. It's always like that. So yes. The killing didn't stop. The kidnapping of women also. The isolated incident, what they like to call it like that. So it's a process, and this process didn't stop, and came this kind of like a fake trial about what has happened. So also this is a psychological genocide, that they are trying to rewrite our history, trying to rewrite what happens to us, and label us as a maybe a collateral damage or clashes or political act or isolated incident. So we are back that we don't have this kind of like independent Alawite organization, either in diaspora or in Syria, that take this up and say, no, they have been killed because they are Alawites, no other reason.
I'm not surprised that this is happening against the Alawite community, but what about the international community? What about responsibility to protect? What about that this is a civilized world and we cannot allow for a genocide to happen and the killing of civilians, and that they needed to intervene against Assad's brutality because he's killing his own people, as they said. What happened now for killing the Syrian people by the Jolani regime? Why would these so-called civilized governments not try at least to stop the Jolani regime from committing these heinous crimes?
Mm-hmm. Well, I always believe that this civilized world is kind of, it's not a charity. Everybody is looking for its goal and its benefit. So what's happening in Syria is going to benefit everybody. It's the whole region. If you look, geopolitics is changing. So it's nobody is like, I don't want to say is nobody is caring for now. I think it will come. It will come for people, for the societies and communities to care. But here is our it's our mission, dear Kevork. Here it's that we Alawites have institutions, organization to mobilize again, to talk about what happened. Because if I don't talk about what happened, nobody, the Turks will not come and talk about what happens. The American will not come and talk about what has happened. It's me who's going to talk about what happens. It's us who's going to talk about what happens. It's my voice, it's my narrative, and it's my story to tell.
Yes.
Right?
It is true. It is true. Still, we claim to be living under a rules-based international order, and there have been interventions in other countries to protect the civilians. Meanwhile, now they're leaving Syrian people on their own against this type of, I would call, a fascist regime. Willing to do everything in order to stay in power. That's the very, very, very wake-up call, I hope, also for many people, that you have to be strong to protect yourself. If you don't protect yourself, nobody is going to protect you. Guys, I think this is the right time now to move to Alawite identity and the right to have rights. And here, using Hannah Arendt's idea of the right to have rights, why do you think an explicit open Alawite identity, which it's with its own name, memory, and institutions, is actually a condition for protection, not a step toward dangerous sectarianism in an environment nowadays that so much radicalism, so much sectarianism, and people are judging and excluding each other just based on their identity?
Yeah, yes, I quote her all the time, in fact, because I'm very fond of her work. But Hannah Arendt, what she found out after she left Germany, that thousands, a million of Germans, Jewish Germans at that time, they were stateless, So you are part of the state just on paper, just in passport, but you're not part of the state in reality. So what she meant at that time, the right to have rights, is the first right is to have a group. You belong to a group separated from the state. You belong that can protect you when the state collapses, right? So this is what has happened in Syria, or for the Alawites, and maybe also for the Druze and etc. When the state collapsed, when the Assad fall, the state collapsed. So everybody went back to their kind of like community, organized group, organized language, organized memory, organized imagination, right? Where the Christian can go back, the Druze can go back, the Kurds already are there, Okay, who is left there? The Alawites. who are melted in the state, who don't have any kind of institution, organization, nothing to talk in their tongue. They already melted to the state. They talk like the state. They think like the state, right? But they are not the state now.
Yeah.
They are not citizen of the state anymore. So that's why I always say, okay, we have this group of people. This group of people called Alawites. They have like kind of like separated religion. They have kind of like a special tradition, special dialects. They have their own memory of
Yes.
own narrative, what has happened to them, and it's never in the books. You know that, Kevork. You have studied in Syria. It's nowhere. So we need the right to start to establish this kind of identity. At the same very time, I mean that this identity is not against Syria.
Yeah.
It is within Syria. We don't want to have identity out of our geographical borders. We really need this identity in our mountains, in our coast, among our shrines. You know, we don't want to
Yes.
take it away and go there. No, we're talking about the right to be us, the right to be Alawites without being afraid of being Alawites. So the right to have rights, you know.
Yes, but Rita, what kind of concrete, let's say, institutions or structures would you like to see Syrian Alawites build to turn this idea of the right to have rights into reality when we're talking about underground work? You know?
Well, I think the first thing is one kind of like an institution or organization or center for what has happened on the 7th of March. You know, it's very nice that you ask this, because I'm gonna tell you something, and I think as an Armenian, you would understand this is very well. When the 7th of March has happened, I have talked with a lot of Syrian Alawites and also non-Syrian Alawites, like Turks Alawites and Kurds Alawites and Lebanese and Israel. Everybody has said in his own words, we have felt there's no tomorrow. There's no tomorrow on the 7th of March. So it was the end. We have felt it from Australia to Canada, through Syria, through Turkey, through Europe. We have felt it in our body. It's like you have reactivated this old gene in us, in this that carry this memory. So I think I would like to see, and I would like to work with that first an institution document what has happened in the 7th of March, because you already said in the beginning that we don't know this regime is gonna last. We don't know when they're gonna collapse, and till they are in power, they're gonna talk in my tongue, in your tongue, in everybody's tongue, because they are in power. So I want to see kind of institutions, kind of like organization, document what has happened in the 7th of March, document the names of those people who were killed in their houses. We have doctors, engineers, lawyers, children. We have counted more than 400 child being killed under 10 years. I work with other group with orphans of the 7th of March. We have 1,000 orphans. This is our memory. This is our tongue. This is our narrative. This is ongoing reality, and this is our history. But also, we need also to work what has really happened before. Also, to document it, to have our narrative, so we can really kind of like protect ourselves, prepare ourselves for the next. I don't want to say the next genocide. For next, it's going to happen. You know,
it's going to happen. I am sure it's going to happen. As you said, it's a process. It's a long term, and this is one of the reasons I try to warn the Armenians not to be passive about Azerbaijan and Turkey and say, oh, we can coexist and we can live. Yes, we can coexist, but you have to be powerful, because once they did it and they denied it happened in the past, and now they repeated it again as an ethnic cleansing of the Armenians, which means it's a process and they're going to come back again sooner or later. So if you're an Armenian guys watching this, please take this warning seriously, because I believe after the last genocide and now the ethnic cleansing, one or more two similar incidences, and then you will disappear from the map in the Southern Caucasus. And here I would like to bring the issue of Israel, because Israel says that they would like to protect some of the minorities in Syria. And this narrative is very important. Many people are looking forward for your answer, where there is this narrative, Israel presenting itself as a protector of Syria's minorities. So how do you read this framing, and how does it look from within an Alawite perspective?
This is very nice to talk about Israel and the minorities, not just the Alawites, all minorities in Syria. But before we go through, we get to the point that we're talking about this, and this is the subject, we're going to talk about the shift of paradigm that has happened in Syria. So we have shift of paradigms in Syria, how people think, how minorities today think, how they perceive things. And this paradigm is not coming from nowhere. This paradigm shift coming from everyday life, from blood, from killing, from kidnapping. Okay, so let's say that all those people who were lived in the slogans about Israel, about the Israel, the enemy, etc., what they have done, they have left us with no protection. The people who have raised us on this idea. You really have to look about the psychological shock, here. They are not here to protect us from anybody. They are just left the country and left the Alawites and left the minorities to face everything, So also there's bringing me another question when it's paradigm shift or like an open question. Maybe people on comments can answer it. The regime who were in power, or these people who lived in those slogans, took not just Alawite military men, took thousands of undergraduate university men and put them in this war. And these people never came back. They were killed. They were Alawites, let's say, put it in this way. So who take this responsibility today? Who is responsible for this, right? Who carry the ethical and political responsibilities? So I'm explaining why there's a paradigm shift, not just for Alawites. I mean, like for everybody in Syria, even the Sunni Muslims, But regarding Israel and the minorities and the Alawites, and I have seen a little bit of the debates on X, and I want to start from that people tend to have peace all the time, especially now. And these also among Alawites tend to have peace today. And I think Alawites today are they're allowed to seek not just protection, to seek kind of like a mutual benefit, not just with Israel. I think also with all the components of Syria, to have a new kind of like a new future. But if you want to talk about something else, dear Kevork, you see all the region is going through this kind of like a new solution and a new orientation, conversation with Israel, peace dealing, even the Shia in Lebanon. I mean, like even Iran, everybody secretly or publicly or is talking about this, have a peace deal with Israel. But when it comes to Alawite, no, you don't have to do that. I mean, like Alawites today have the right to write their future, to seek protection, to seek not just protection, also to seek kind of like someone who can guarantee there is no other massacres going to happen for them, right? So I think we cannot just look to the protection of Alawites with Israel or the relation. We have really to talk about the geopolitics of the whole region, that everything is changing today. From the Shia perspective, from other Arabs perspective, from also the Sunni perspective. I mean, like, I don't think they want to go and fight. They really want peace also. So I think Alawites are entitled to look where is their kind of benefits in this project, and have a say of a matter, not just be in the backyard of everything is happening.
I think why I raise this issue is the issue of asking Israel, or let's put it in a proper context. There is a difference between, let's say, a state seeking a relationship with another state and a community within a state seeking protection from state B against other groups. Like, for example, what happened in Sweden, in my opinion, was a heinous massacre against the Jews by Jolani, forcing them to seek protection from outside. Under normal circumstances, I would not have expected from the Druze community to pursue this path. Jolani pushed them on the cliff, and Israel came and presented itself as savior. But the important aspect here is that Israel wanted for Jolani to come to power. Israel enabled Jolani's ascendance to power so that we in Syria would be threatened and ask for Israel for protection. So Israel also put us into this trap. Like, yes, let's put the Ba'ath Party aside, let's put the slogans aside. But what Israel has done in the past 14 years in Syria, they have directly and indirectly supported and enabled these terrorist groups who committed and still committing these crimes against us. Therefore, when we watch this geopolitical scene in the region, yes, the countries are running after normalization. Yesterday, Lebanon also officially started this process. And guys, I don't believe a second that Iran is against this now, because Ali al-Larijani was running between Lebanon and Iran and Saudi Arabia and trying to bring all the sides together just to bring some consensus before Lebanon starts this negotiation. So on a state level, on an official level, I see what is going on in the region, and I see everybody has now, after the fall of Syria, realized that there is one way, and that is normalization. They push the Palestinians under the bus. But this is the power who enabled these terrorists in our country, plus has shown to the world that it has the intention and the capability, and has done like a televised mass murder of women and children in Gaza, whether we agree with the politics of Hamas or not, something that I myself find impossible for me to accept the role of Israel as a protector when they couldn't protect the people they occupy, because the Palestinians are under occupation, right? They mass murdered them. I understand the sentiments of some people say, but the Palestinians hate you. It makes some Palestinians, let's say, hate you. It makes no difference for me. Like, I am, as a human, as someone whose grandparents passed through genocide, turning on my smartphone and watching babies blown up. Their heads are every day blown up by F-16s and AI-driven drones. I, with good conscience, cannot accept Israel as a protector. If the communities in Syria all come to a consensus and say, we will normalize ties with Israel under certain conditions, they give us our Golan Heights, that would be a political decision. But if one society comes, one community comes and says, we as a religious community or a special minority community in Syria, we would like to seek and reach to Israel to protect us, I believe they are going in with their own feet to a trap, and the Jolani regime will use this against them.
Yes, I don't think that you are talking in like non-fact, but at the same time, there's nobody has asked the protection of Israel from Alawites. Yeah, nobody have done that, and so also we're talking about. You have talked a little bit in the X about like Alawites being pro-Israel or Alawites not being pro-Israel. I think this is an assumption, right?
Yes.
This is a hypothesis, and any hypothesis we need to either falsify or need to try if it's right or not. So what this means that we need to conduct like a survey to know if people are Alawites people are with Israel or not. But right, this is what I do in my research, my academic research, right? So but I think today, if you look to the situation, none of these minorities today have the luxury to think about bigger questions. No. I tell you something. If you are scared and they have kidnapped your child and raped your woman and you don't have bread, are you going to think about philosophy?
No, no.
Okay.
I've been saying this. Yes, the Jolani pushed these communities on the cliff. So everybody
It's
comes and gives a
not,
hand, they will accept
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, like now today, I'm not going who did that or who didn't do that. I'm talking today out from as an Alawite person. Okay, I live the horror. I'm afraid every day. I'm afraid for everybody. I am not able to think about bigger questions, right? Go back to what has happened in Syria. I mean, like, if you remember also, it was Hamas also who were like against the Syrian army. The Palestinians themselves, come on, they were bombing, digging, etc., etc., etc. So, I mean, like, everybody was in this war. Everybody was in this war. Turkey was in this war. Russia was in this war. Everybody was in this war. Today, the minorities, including Alawites, not just the Alawites, because we have the Druze, they are in a very vulnerable situation. I mean, if Israel didn't interfere, what was happened, I think we're going to talk about the Suwaida in the past tense. In the past tense, there was a city called Suwaida. And you have seen the videos, dear Kevork. You have seen the videos of what has happened. You have seen the videos from the coastal region. So today, our main ask is we want to live in dignity. And if this dignity, it's about making new allies, I think this is our right. I mean, like Alawites today and other minorities, including the Druze and Christians today. I mean, Christians almost have no voice here. I don't hear their voices. We have no luxury to. We come on. We have Abu Dujana next door.
Yes.
You know who is Abu Dujana, I think, right?
Yes, of course.
I mean, like a person who is gonna come and cut your head just because you are a Nasrani or a Nusayri or whatsoever. And think about it, how me as an Alawite thinking about Nicaragua when I am being killed just because I am Alawite, you know? I think in the mainstream of not me as a person, as an individual, this is something else. As Alawite, as a community, seeing they are being treated less than humans.
Yes.
I think the mainstream today, the shift of paradigms, I just talked about it. I explained it, why there's a shift of paradigms. Because of those people who put them in charge for 60 years and drive with these slogans when then they're not here to protect us from anything, even from Israel, you know. So I think it's our right to seek protection, allies, to seek recognition also, while the whole region is going with normalizing with Israel, because this is what's going to happen at the end. And this is what's really going to happen at the end.
One more issue about Israel is if you openly say that you will and you will continue committing genocide. They say they say the Palestinians are Amaleks, right? Those are Israeli officials. And how would they see other people in Syria differently? What I'm seeing is they are trying to invest in Syria on the fears of the people that they have created. This war started, in my opinion, because the Assad government has done too much or gone too far in its policy of supporting Hezbollah and some of the Palestinian factions. So there was no other reason, in my opinion, for them to dump tens of billions of dollars to destroy the former Syrian regime. So there is a direct correlation between our misery and what we are nowadays facing in Syria and Israel's role in enabling these groups, including giving them like I will give you an example. I don't know if you have time. Like if you have 5 more minutes.
I have 5 minutes, yes.
5 minutes. If you remember a few years ago when ISIS attacked Asweda and they killed many Druze civilians, slaughtered them, and the Syrian army intervened to protect them back then, right? Israel didn't blink an eye about that. They didn't even try to support or help or protect the Druze community. Now that the central government is gone, this is an opportunity for them to expand. Israel says our borders start in Jerusalem and ends in Damascus. Now, we don't want to live under Jolani, but why, like, you know, they put the people in front of two difficult choices. and that is either Jolani's occupation or Israeli occupation. So we no longer have sovereignty over ourselves. What I'm trying to preserve is our sovereignty over our decisions, not to be dependent and relied on other powers.
Yeah, of course. I agree with that. I mean, like, you know that Israel is not a charity. It's not a charity country. America is not a charity. Turkey is not a charity, for sure. So everybody has its own project in the area, right?
Yeah.
But you just bring the Suwaida thing. At that time, it was a state. There was an army. There was kind of like a collective thinking that we are all Syrians, right?
Yeah.
Today, you're not Syrian. You are just an Armenian. I am a Fulul. The Druze are somewhat kind of traitors, and the Christians, they are just had to be kicked out. It's a matter of time, you know. They're making some compliments with him, and the Ismaili, they have paid some money. There's no state there, Kevork. Here, so there's no state. There's no sense of a state. There's no sense of rights, right? And we have not just Israel. Russia is there. America is there. I think China is going to be there soon. So it's not about we are seeking protection. We are seeking recognition of this massacre not happening to us again and again, right? So we need, as Alawite, to have our own path in this, and people try to kind of like emotionally abusing us with this, because we already have 200,000 people were killed in the civil war. Today, I don't know if you have heard this news. Today, there is a Checheni fraction are up in our mountains today, like being displaced. We have a great threat here today. We really need to think, remobilize, and think about our future allies.
Yep. I think this is a brilliant conversation we had today, guys, about different things. Like, really, I'm happy that we have done it, and I'm happy that we are going to continue doing this. I'm doing these interviews, and sooner or later we have a list of Syrians all over the world, unfortunately, from Japan, to Cuba or something. We have where we're scattered out all around the world, and we will bring more people into the same discussion, like 3-4 people. I will be definitely the one like trying to moderate respectful and civilized conversations like this one, guys. I would like to thank you, Rita. Before you leave, are you publishing in your public name somewhere that people can follow your work?
To be honest, in my now I'm mixing Norwegian with English. I do it all the time. I speak English, Norwegian fluently because I teach at university, so I have to teach Norwegian. Yeah, I was very public on Facebook, but the new Jolani Beni Umayya, they do report my account, and it's just disappeared. And then I had to do a new account, and then it's on my name, Rita Koefoed Khairbek, and I publish some kind of like psychological analysis for what's happening, political opinion, and etc. And I am active also in X, little bit, not that much. So yeah. So
we want you more on X. We want you more on X.
Okay, I feel sometimes I kind of am old for those things.
No, you're not. I will every time you post, I will amplify you guys so that you can also follow Rita's work also on X. But you can go to the description, my friends. Her full name is mentioned there, so you can copy it and find her also on Facebook for those who would like also to read in Arabic. Many of you were also Syrians, Lebanese, or from all around the world. You can hit her follow and see what she writes, and be engage in the conversation. It's very important for us. We all grow together. Rita, thank you so much really for coming to the show.
Yeah, last thing that something said to me yesterday that you should really do in Arabic sometimes, like for your Arabic.
So the reason why I don't do Arabic is because I live in Germany, and we have a large community of Jolanists. So I stopped publishing in Arabic because the listing they come in the street, harass me, spit on me, try to hit me up. So that's why I stopped doing that until I'm in safe place. Unfortunately, that's the situation we are dealing with nowadays. I have a family, I have a wife. I don't want to die by someone who is doesn't know to read. He cannot even understand what I'm saying. Unfortunately, that's the truth of the matter. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. I apologize for my voice. I will see you guys in like 40 minutes on Judge Napolitano's show. He invited me to speak about Syria, so stay tuned for that. So tomorrow I'm going to rest. I cannot really, I have to, and we will see each other on Friday. Thank you so much, especially our moderators, guys, Red Access and Johan, and PC Panyu families. Salam.
Thank you. Bye-bye.